In the last four verses of Ecclesiastes chapter 11, Solomon begins to set up a contrast that will really continue into about verse 8 of chapter 12. And in these last four verses, he talks about a contrast between light and darkness, and then especially about youth and older age. That's what really begins to take form in the first 8 verses of the next chapter. But as we look at these verses, he says, truly the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man lives many years and rejoices in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. All that is coming is vanity. And when you think about the contrast here of light and darkness, when you put it in the greater context of what he's about to say in the final couple of verses about youth and age, it's very possible that the idea of light may refer to that time of life in which we are younger, whereas darkness refers to that time when we grow older. And he says, enjoy the light while you can, because it will certainly not always be there. And that when you move into what he says next, that seems to fit, because then he says, rejoice, O young man. In fact, as you look at the text here, he's making that contrast very clear, and then he really expands on it a little later in the last chapter. But here he says, rejoice, O young men, in your youth, and in your heart let your heart cheer you the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes, but know that for all these God will bring you into judgment. So we do understand that he's saying, and there are unique opportunities that we have when we are young, and that we need to take advantage of them. God expects young people to act like young people, but not to act foolishly. He says, use your heart, use your eyes, but remember that God is always watching you and that he will bring what we do into judgment. So be careful and be wise and don't do the wrong things or foolish things. And so he concludes by saying, therefore, remove sorrow from your heart. Don't live in a way that you have heart sorrow and difficulty. In fact, you notice here, he says, rejoice and then remove. And we rejoice in the fact that we're able to do these things when we're young, but we remove the sorrow and put away evil from your flesh, for childhood and youth are, as it says here, vanity in most translations, but it probably carries more with it the idea of transient. It's temporary. And really, when you take the message that's here, what he's trying to tell us is that if you want to really prepare yourself to have a good old age, start early. Start when you're young. Do the right thing when you're young. It's temporary, and move towards something that will last longer, last better, and ultimately last eternally.